Hello, welcome to This Family Does Everything. My name is Alexandria, and finally we have part 16 of the Judge Dorow and Darrell Brooks show. So let's sit back, watch, and analyze the Darrell Brooks trial.
I don't know. You know what? I'll indulge you. Attorney Opper, would you like to provide a basis for why the state sought dismissal of that charge prior to the start of this trial?
Yes, Your Honor, because as Ms. Patterson just testified a short while ago, she did not have any visible marks or injuries from that event. And we did have the photographs of her injuries. We did not want to confuse the record as to whether or not there was a battery that occurred on November 20th.
Your Honor, I object to that. What does the letter read?
You have the letter. You showed it to me, sir.
And I've been trying to find it ever since I came back in, and now all of a sudden I can't.
And now
find
you're impugning, though, like somehow you're imputing the integrity of this court, of the bailiffs of this state. You're accusing, frankly, everyone of moving your papers.
Did I point the finger at anyone? Did I say anyone did anything?
Not directly, but indirectly you did,
so
sir.
how can you make the assumption that I'm saying?
Can I please make the record without you interrupting?
Yes, you may. Yes, you may. I apologize.
I appreciate that. Thank you. But you made repeated comments, sir, about I can't find my documents, I don't know what happened, things of that nature. When you came back out, you took multiple minutes before you even asked your first question of Ms. Patterson. And if I need to, I'll have a bailiff put on the record that no one touched your table.
Your Honor, did I say anyone touched my table? I didn't say
you implied it, sir.
But did I say that?
You stated it implicitly.
I never asked the bailiffs, hey, did any one of you touch my table? I never said that to them. I just said, I can't find my paper, which is the truth.
And the way that you said it, like,
I didn't point anyone out, though.
And like, well, that's kind of interesting. I don't have a document that was just on my table. That is what you said.
That's what I said, but I did not point the finger at anyone.
So,
I
you
can see
have
if
the
I
letter.
came in, Your Honor, with all respect, I can see if I came in and said, hey, one of you moved something off my table, or if I would have directed that towards the state, or if I would have directed that towards the clerks or something like that, then that would be more of a validity to what you're saying.
I need to continue with the record, sir. It's very apparent to me, sir, that every time, I can't say every time because that would be an absolute, but many times throughout this trial, and especially the last 2 days, when the court makes a ruling that you disagree with, or I want to make a record about some behavior of yours, or a further record about a ruling that you that was not in your favor, that you start peppering me with questions or comments, statements. You question me about the law. You ask, is it verified law? It is, from my perspective, a clear attempt to kind of turn us in a direction away from what we're doing, perhaps even to stall and to delay.
I'm sorry.
That's my perspective. That I'm making a rule. You're doing it again.
I mean, because it has no validity.
So, I am trying to make a record outside the presence of the jury about a line of questioning you want to ask Ms. Patterson. Now, I've reviewed repeatedly up on the bench 90608 and 90616, which are two of the primary ways you can attack credibility. I've referenced one of those previously. 90608 is evidence of character and conduct of a witness. I'm not going to read through it all, but it's limited to character for truthfulness or untruthfulness. It's not specific instances of conduct. It's character evidence, which frankly wouldn't even come from the witness who's testifying. All right, then there's the statute on bias, 90616. All right, and none of the questions as I heard them went to a permissible topic under bias of witnesses. You generally said credibility. You did not give me any further explanation as to why you believed it was relevant to credibility. Now we have you claiming that there's some document that was sent by the witness after the charges were filed that apparently contain photographs. And you can clarify the record momentarily when I'm done, that you believe goes to the credibility of this witness. So I need to ask a few questions about that, sir, to determine whether it has relevance to those issues. Number one, when did you receive this letter?
I received this multiple letters, actually, over a period of time. It wasn't, I referred to this one because this one had the pictures. But
and why do you believe it was from Ms. Patterson?
To answer your question with clarity.
Thank you. Does it have a date on it, the letter?
No, I didn't bring the letter. I brought the pictures. Because I thought, from my interpretation, I thought showing the pictures would be okay. How did I get these? So my mind was saying, show the pictures. They didn't come out of thin air. The witness knows that they sent me the pictures. They know that.
Well, again, it assumes facts that aren't here. You're assuming this witness sent it. I don't know. But even if she did, what relevance does it have to her credibility before this jury?
It goes to the credibility because she's put on this facade of being so afraid of someone, but yet still, you know that we're not supposed to have contact, but you still sneaking behind and saying, oh, I wonder how you're doing, and oh, this and this and that. Oh,
I don't think she's ever said she was afraid. I think that was the officers who may have stated that, but I don't believe she ever said that. She specifically said today, when you asked her why did you, it was either why did you go back or why did you have, I'll look at my notes, and she said, I don't know.
It was why weren't you forthright with all the details? That was the question.
So again, I'm going to ask you, even if this letter's from her, these pictures are from her, how does it relate to her credibility before the jury?
Who else could these pictures be from?
I'm going to ask you point blank. Did you get a letter that's signed from her?
I got. What do you mean signed? No
How do you know?
Letters.
What's your why do you have a belief that they are from her?
I have multiple letters from her.
You're not answering my question. Why do you believe the letters are from Erica Patterson?
Because they were sent from Erica Patterson. Why else would I?
Were they signed by her?
What do you mean signed?
Did she write her name on the letter? Was it the content of the letter? No, I'm not kidding you. I need to make a record, sir. You're making a statement that these letters are from her and that they're relevant to her credibility.
Your Honor, I'm going to go out on a limb here.
And I'm asking you why you hold that opinion.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume, which I know is true, you've never been in my position. You've never been in jail. So you've never received a letter from someone writing someone in jail. No one is going to... When you
You're
say
not
to
answering
me,
my
when
question,
you say to
sir.
me,
What's the basis why you believe they're from Miss Patterson? Is there some information in them that only she would know? Did she sign the letters? Is it penmanship that you recognize? Why do you believe they're from her as opposed to somebody else sending you information? Could be your mom, could be, I'm just saying, could be anybody else. You got to answer my question. It's called an offer of proof.
But you still got to understand why this is mind-boggling to me. Like, how I got a child with this woman. Why would I not know her handwriting?
But you have to lay a foundation for these letters, sir. That might be through your own testimony. So that I'm trying to figure out why you believe they're from her. Not all this other stuff about I'm in jail and I have a child. I'm trying to I need to know. It's called an offer of proof.
Are you serious?
What do you believe? Why do you believe they're from her? I am serious.
Because they're from her.
But you're assuming.
Like, how else am I supposed to answer that?
I've given you a few reasons why it would lend to that opinion.
So it has to be put in a legal term.
The bottom line is I need the letter. So if you're going to question her on that, the state absolutely has a right to see the letter. So you need to provide that letter. The bottom line is I'm not going to allow any questioning without having that letter. So the state has the ability to question you about that or question this witness and to look at the veracity of what your claims are here. So I may take an early lunch. If that's in your cell, then you can go get it and bring it. But without that letter, I'm not allowing this line of questioning. Do you have the letter with you in court?
I just said no. How
Okay.
many times I got to say the same thing on record?
You know, sometimes, sir, I don't hear what you say because you interrupt me so much or you answer quietly. And I'm taking notes and I'm focused on probably a dozen things at the same time.
But if I say something under my breath, everybody seems to hear it. Everybody seems to hear
In
that
a
just
quiet
fine.
courtroom,
And everybody
yes, we can
assumes,
hear it very
and
clearly.
everybody assumes that it has to be disparaging. Or,
Once again, you're doing this tactic.
Because
where you try to
it's not
go
a tactic,
off
it's
of what
facts.
we're talking
It's
about
facts.
to some other reason.
It's facts.
to
Because
some
I
other
find
thing.
it hard to believe that
I'm going to
all
let
of
the
a sudden
state.
nobody hears what I say.
I'm going to let the
Come on,
state
man,
make
stop.
a record of why they
Stop.
believe it's objectionable because I haven't let them do that. I've given you multiple opportunities to tell me why you
So
believe it's.
I didn't get these pictures from nobody else. Why was
The
somebody
record will
else
reflect you have 2 pictures that you believe were from this witness.
that I know is from him?
No, that you believe.
That I know.
All right, I'll ask the state their position on all of this.
My position, Your Honor, is that these pictures, first of all, should not be admissible. 1, because of a discovery violation. We've never seen them before. 2, because we have reason to believe that he did not get them from Erica Patterson. He is on a jail phone call talking to his mother, Dawn Woods, about Dawn Woods sending these photographs to him. Now,
That's a lie. I object to
Let
that.
the state make their argument without interruption, sir.
That's a lie, though.
3, I believe that these photographs are designed to make a suggestion to the jury that Erica Patterson is a bad mom. I think that is what the defendant is trying to do. And if we're going to go down that road, then we would be forced to counter that claim. First of all, it doesn't make her an incredible witness, if it's even true. And second of all, if we go down that road, we would be forced to counter that claim by pointing out that not only does the defendant not live with the child in question, he doesn't live with any of the other children that he has. He impregnated Erica Patterson when she was a minor in Nevada, and for doing so, he was convicted of statutory sexual seduction, pled guilty in March of 2007 to that felony offense, and is a sex offender on the registry as a result. So if there's any causation that would lead to Erica Patterson being a bad mom, Mr. Brooks has a direct role in that causation.
And that's
Furthermore,
I object to that.
I'm not
because
done.
that's a lie.
Let him
Because at
finish.
the end of the day,
Let
if
him
we
finish,
gonna open the door
Mr.
on that, no,
Brooks.
since he want to make a record and not be accurate, so let's be accurate all on the record. Since you think you know so much,
Once
so
again,
we can
Mr.
open the
Brooks
door
is
on.
being
We can
loud,
open the door on how old she told me she was when we met.
interrupting.
We can ask that question
He is
too. Then
over the
Did you
top,
ask that?
animated
Did you
right
know
now.
that?
Mr. Brooks, I'm ordering you to sit down and to let the state
No,
finish.
I'm not going to sit here and let somebody be inaccurate on the record and lie on the record.
Right. Under Illinois versus Allen, I've warned him repeatedly. He's being removed from the courtroom. And you know what? Let me dial that back. We're just going to take an early lunch, 1 hour. We'll be back. And unless he brings that letter and he
Don't
can
sit
show
here and try
it
to
is
think you know what's
inadmissible,
going
she will
on.
not be questioned. And under 90611, I will
Then you gonna
declare
talk
the
about where my
cross-examination
kids live. You don't know where,
closed.
You don't know where, what
Thank
happened
you.
at
We're
the
in
time
recess,
all this
1
happened,
hour.
bruh. Get your facts straight. So let's open the door on all of it then, so we can get all of it on the record. Since you think you know so much. Did you know she said she was 18 when I met her? Did you know that?
The record should reflect at 12:10. I do have Mr. Brooks in the other courtroom so that I could make an adequate record without interruption. We are on day 15 of trial, and today has been a rough morning to say the least. We are in the stage of this trial where Mr. Brooks has the right to present relevant and probative evidence and to call witnesses. And I have done my very best to honor his rights in that regard. Part of this morning dealt with his, from my perspective, disagreement with how I, yesterday and in the days preceding that, set up what I thought was a very reasonable way for witnesses to be called into this courtroom on his behalf. that leads to the evidence claimed by Mr. Brooks that he has related to a letter and photographs. As I indicated before the break, I've looked at both 906-16 and 906-08. Those are generally two of the statutes dealing with character evidence. That would be 906-08. 906-16 deals with bias. From my perspective, the questions that were actually asked and answered about do we have a child together? Well, he didn't ask it quite that way. I'm summarizing, but regarding their common child, regarding whether he sees the child on or off, where they met, things of that nature, are solely to attack her character, as a mother, which is wholly improper. The only character evidence that would remotely be allowed under, at least for a witness under these circumstances, would be character for truthfulness, which would not even be from this witness. It's typically another witness comes in and testifies to that, and only about opinion evidence, their opinion of the person's character for truthfulness. Under bias, 906-16, I didn't see where it also related to her credibility. Simply attacking her on her motherhood. That's my perspective. I did not receive the answer to the repeated questions I asked regarding the offer of proof and this letter that he claims was sent by Erica Patterson, and then the photos. The issue as it relates to this witness is a single charge in the case. It is a battery charge with a date of violation that is alleged to be November 21 of 2021. To allow Mr. Brooks to ask the witness about contact after that point in time is not relevant. He has not given me any reason as to why it's relevant. The state also, I think, rightly points out that if those questions were to be answered by Erica Patterson and other questions along those lines that were questions that were objected to by the state and that I sustained, Mr. Brooks would open the door to what only could be described as very damaging evidence against him, related to the other acts evidence, related to whether he has a relationship with the children or not, and frankly, a topic I am not going to open the door to. I'm not going to allow it. It's a side issue. It is not relevant. It is not probative. But certainly one could argue, based upon the questions, topics that the door could be opened to. It is my duty as the judge assigned to this case to ensure that the trial is fair, that relevant and probative evidence comes in, and that it is done so in a way that's effective and efficient for the presentation of evidence, including the testimony of witnesses. And so I'm not going to allow questions related to the children in common or child in common, at least any further, between Mr. Brooks and Ms. Patterson, when they met, how they met, the nature of their relationship now, whether there's been any contact between them since he was arrested and going forward. Because nothing that I've been presented with would suggest it relates not only to relevant and probative information, but even to her credibility as a witness. I will give Mr. Brooks a final opportunity to make an offer of proof as to why he believes my decision is wrong. That needs to include an offer of proof as to why he believes this letter is from Erica Patterson and why it's relevant to the issues in this case. Because he came in to the courtroom this afternoon and is not in here but in an adjacent courtroom, I want to make some additional findings as well and kind of just tie up a few loose ends for the record. As the Supreme Court in Illinois versus Allen stated, it is a set. This court has utilized an adjacent courtroom with superior audio and video capabilities that I believe are the functional equivalent of being present in this courtroom. Mr. Brooks's behavior today alone was disruptive. I would absolutely characterize it as stubbornly defiant. It was interruptive, and it certainly aggravates the proper administration of the criminal justice system, of this trial. There was nothing dignified about it. There was nothing orderly about it. I would remind him once again of SCR Chapter 62, which are the basic expectations of courtesy and decorum in the courts in the state of Wisconsin. I'd remind him of the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Be respectful. Be kind. Give these proceedings the due respect that they deserve for himself. I do not believe he even shows respect for that. I'm not looking for any further input on the issue of removal or any further record. I wanted to make that record without interruption, which is why Mr. Brooks was in the other courtroom. When we come back to this courtroom, I will ask Mr. Brooks for an offer of proof. He will be brought in. So we'll go off the record for that momentarily. An offer of proof, if he wishes to do that, related to the letter and further questioning. I also want an offer of proof as to what probative and relevant information Ms. Patterson will be testifying to based on his direct examination. This is a witness who was called by the state initially. This is a witness where Mr. Brooks had a full and fair opportunity to cross-examine her on a prior date. He was allowed to call her himself. The vast majority of the testimony today has been a rehashing and a representation of her testimony from the other day. I'd have to look at my notes for the date. October what? 7th. October 7th, I believe she was the third witness. We did not glean anything new, probative, or relevant through the course of the questioning today. Because he's had a full and fair opportunity to already cross-examine her, because he's had a significant amount of time this morning to question her, I will require that offer of proof, and then I will make a decision whether any more questions will be asked of the witness. At this point in time, does the state anticipate any cross of Ms. Patterson? But I'm going to ask that when we come back, when everyone is here. With that, I am going to take a very short recess to have Mr. Brooks brought back into this courtroom so that we can continue with testimony and evidence. Thank you. All right, so we are back on the record. I've been advised that Mr. Brooks does not want to come over to the main courtroom. Mr. Brooks, I'm advising you, you are invited back to this courtroom. It is my sincere hope that you want to come back here. I see you're reading something, but we are at the point in this trial where you have a witness still on the stand, obviously figuratively at the moment, not literally. I'm going to ask you if you are ready to answer my questions from previously and also to let me know whether you are asking to stay in that courtroom. I've been advised he can hear and see. Mr. Brooks, we are on the record. I'll go through the topics one by one. You are in the other courtroom. You are invited back here. Would you like to come back here? Yes or no?
Are we supposed to be back on the record?
Yeah. She's asking a question.
The audio is on. Would you like to come back to this courtroom, sir?
Unmuted.
You're unmuted.
So I'm finally unmuted.
You've been unmuted for a while, since I came back on. My understanding, sir, is you'd like to be in that other courtroom. Is that true? Record to reflect, he's putting on the headphones.
What's going on?
Mr. Brooks, I'm inviting you back to the courtroom. My understanding from a relay of information from the bailiffs is that you don't want to come back here.
I ain't say nothing.
All right, are you ready to come back then?
Not if I'm just gonna get held in contempt again.
I didn't hold you in contempt.
Then why am I even over here?
So that I could make a ruling and make a record without an interruption, pursuant to my authority in Illinois versus Allen.
So did you make your record?
I did.
Am I ever gonna get a chance to make the record without being interrupted?
Mr. Brooks, I'm asking you, the first question is, do you want to come back into this courtroom?
Not if you're gonna hold me in contempt.
Sir, I need to continue with the trial. So if you don't answer yes or no, then I will presume you want to be in that courtroom, and you'll, by your conduct, waive your right to be in this courtroom.
By what conduct? I didn't consent to
By
being held in
failing
contempt.
to answer my question, sir. So I'll ask you again.
Are you gonna hold me in contempt? I don't want to be held in contempt.
I will ask you again, sir. Would you like to come back to this courtroom?
I'm supposed to be in there anyway.
So twice now I've asked him. He has not answered a yes or no. Mr. Brooks, I'll ask you a third time. Would you like to come back into this courtroom?
Yes, if you're not gonna hold me in contempt.
Given his yes, I will close the courtroom. He'll be brought over, and then we'll continue when he comes into this courtroom. Thank you.
And for the record, I do not consent to being called that name.
Let's take up the issue of the letter and the photographs and your offer of proof, sir, if you have one.
I don't need no offer of proof.
I'll ask you a second time. Do you have an offer of proof
We
to
can go
provide,
past all
sir?
that. We can go past all that. I don't need to ask them questions. It's too much of an issue. It's too much of a problem.
Mr. Brooks, I'm going to ask you for a third time. Do you have an offer of proof
I
related
just said
to
no.
the route?
I just said no. I just said that.
All right, thank you. Then based upon there being no offer of proof, then my decision stands. As to the continuation of the examination of Ms. Patterson, I would like an offer of proof as to what you believe her probative and relevant testimony will be from this point forward.
I mean, I don't know how she's going to answer the rest of the questions. There's not that many questions left. I was almost done.
What topics generally were you going to question her about?
I guess I'll have to look in here because so much that happened since over the past hour and a half or so. I can tell you one thing: I don't intend to have too many more questions. I tell you that. I was almost finished.
I need an offer of proof as to what you believe her testimony would be, meaning what topics. And are they topics that have not already been covered either through her direct examination from the state, your cross-examination, or already covered by your direct?
I don't remember her. What do you mean by related to her direct? Is that from the last time she testified?
From the first date that she testified and from today. What
remember,
new topics will
I don't
you be?
remember everything she testified to the first time. It was 2 weeks ago.
Well, Mr. Brooks, this is your opportunity to prevent relevant and probative evidence, but under 906.11, she's already been questioned now twice by you. So what new topics do you intend to question her about when she comes back on the witness stand?
What do you mean by new topics?
Topics that you haven't already covered.
What, pursuant to the police report or something? Is that what you're asking?
No,
I don't understand.
I'm asking you. I'll ask you once again, sir, give me an offer of proof as to what you believe your questioning will be as to Ms. Patterson going forward.
And you say it related to topics, right?
You can just give me the topics. I think that's fair.
I wanted to ask questions about the police reports. That was the last few questions. That's why I'm saying it was only...
Is it a statement that she wrote?
I don't know if it's a statement that she wrote in here.
Do you see a written statement with her signature
I will
on it?
have to go through all the paperwork.
Is there a written statement from Ms. Patterson?
No, Your Honor.
It's my understanding Detective Guth spoke to her on both occasions. Is that right?
Yes, with Detective Barrett with him on the first occasion. Detective Barrett wrote that first report. Both interviews were also recorded.
Previously provided with discovery?
Absolutely.
What about the police report, sir? Do you want to question her about so I know with specificity?
Oh, I'm looking at it now. How many officers did reports? Because it seemed like it's more than just 2. At least from this paperwork, is more than 2.
May I have Bill show me what Mr. Brooks is referring to? I can maybe help him try and explain, but
Sure.
I don't know what he's talking about.
I can't find the first page to that, but whoever that officer is right there. I have to snatch it.
So I've got pages 2 and 3 out of 6 from Detective Barron's report under Waukesha Police Department incident number 21-047533. This is one of the 2 reports we've been talking about regarding the statements that Ms. Patterson gave to detectives on November 21st and then on November 22nd. This is the first statement.
Is that the officer you just said?
Yes.
What about that report do you want to question this witness about?
The report is not in order, so again, as I stated before, I would have to read it.
Mr. Brooks, I trust that you're prepared. These are your witnesses. So what questions, what about that report do you want to question Ms. Patterson on?
Your Honor, I just stated 3 times I would have to read a little bit of this to form the questions.
Under my authority, under 906.11, then, and given that this witness was initially called by the state, there was a full and fair opportunity for cross-examination by Mr. Brooks at that time, and they had ample time this morning to question her. I will declare that his questioning of her to be closed. I will bring the witness out on the witness stand and then we'll bring the jury out, and then I will simply ask the state if there are any questions, and then we'll move on from there.
Just so I understand what you mean by close.
I'm not allowing you to ask her any additional questions, given your full and fair opportunity that you had previously when she was called by the state, and given the opportunity you had this morning and your failure to identify for this court any probative and relevant information that she would testify to about what's in that report.
How do I, first of all, the report isn't even in order. So I would have to essentially read at least some of it to even ask a
Mr. Brooks,
question.
this is your witness. I expect that you will be prepared and you will not cause delay by any lack thereof. So I'm bringing the witness out, the jury will come out, and you will not have another opportunity to ask any additional questions unless the state asks questions on cross-examination.
So what is we bringing the witness out for?
I
then
have
if
to do
can't?
that in front of the jury.
Man, I object to that ruling too. Can you give me a lawful law why?
Your objection is noted for the record. If you start interrupting me when the jury comes out or make any commentary, you will be removed to the other courtroom, and that's...
So I'm being held in contempt again?
No, it's not contempt, sir. It's a finding under Illinois versus Allen. It's a warning that you will forfeit your right
So I might
to
as
be
well
present.
I might as well have just
No
stayed
such
over there.
contempt finding.
I might as well have just stayed over there then if I was
Mr.
going to get held in
Brooks,
contempt.
that decision is for you and you alone to make, and it is based on your conduct. If you're going to
Just
continue...
take me over there. Just take me over there because I'm not finna get held in contempt for nothing.
I have not held you in contempt.
You did.
You're
You're attempting to hold me in contempt. That's what that is.
No, that's not contempt.
So is it civil or criminal? Why am I being
Mr.
held in
Brooks?
contempt?
I'm going to keep you in here because
that's the whole reason
you're
I
going to need
didn't
to
want to
call
come.
the next witness, and I'm going to need
Your
to
Honor.
bring you over in any event.
That's the whole reason why I didn't want to come over here, because you was going to find a reason to hold me in contempt.
Well, I'm finding a reason, and it's not contempt, but I'd find a reason to remove you based upon your disruptive outbursts.
Well, then remove me if
and
that's
your-
what you want to do. Remove me then.
I don't want to do it, sir. I
Obviously
want
you
in
do.
This courtroom.
Obviously you do. You brought it up before we can even get to...
All right. Mr. Brooks has forfeited his right to be present in this courtroom for the remainder of this witness. Even
So
though it will be
did I
short,
actually forfeit that right?
you have forfeited your right to be present.
And
As
how
the-
did I forfeit that right, Your Honor?
All right, we're going off the record so that he can be removed to the other courtroom, and he can call his next witness after we complete with Ms. Patterson and giving the state an opportunity from the neighboring courtroom. And once you can promise to this court that you will abide by the rules of decorum and civility, and if you're willing to conduct yourself consistently within that, then I will allow you to come back over.
So why am I being held in contempt now?
I'm not holding you in contempt.
Then what did I do?
All right, I'm going to step off. You've interrupted repeatedly. I'm going to step off. You are unmuted, sir. The jury is on its way in. Well, will be shortly.
Why didn't we address subject matter jurisdiction when I was over here?
I'm going to mute you if you do that, sir.
I'm not gonna do it when the jury. That's why I asked now before the jury came in.
I addressed that in my opening type remarks and record when we came back on the record today. I already addressed that.
So will it be proven for the record? Will I at least be told why I'm held in contempt when I didn't do nothing? Civil or criminal?
That's a misstatement of what I did, sir.
So why am I
I
over
will
here?
advise when the jury's coming in, and if you can't be quiet, you're going to be muted, sir.
You gonna mute me anyway.
Not if you're quiet.
So I gotta be quiet like a little kid?
It's not what I said, sir. You have to be
That's what
respectful.
you said.
You have to be respectful of the proceedings.
But nobody has to be respectful to me though.
That's a mischaracterization as well.
So can I say for the record that two of your bailiffs was just making gestures behind my head, and I seen them through the TV screen and made me feel uncomfortable?
Jury's coming in. Please rise for the jury.
So that's not going to be addressed.
Mr.
Okay?
Brooks, I'm muting you.
Middle District of Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
That's the federal district. That was appealed.
It was later affirmed. Okay. Can I have the preliminary instructions for a second? Oh, sure. I should just keep them. They're nearby. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Just for the record, Mr. Brooks is appearing from another courtroom. That should not affect your deliberation or verdicts in any way. At this time, does the state have any questions for this witness?
I don't have any questions for Ms. Patterson.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Thank you for being here. All right, the defense may call its next witness, please. Go ahead, sir. You can call your next witness.
I thought I was muted.
You're not muted.
So how long am I supposed to stay in here now?
I'm going to excuse the jury. We'll hopefully have you back shortly. All rise for the jury, please. All right, the jury is no longer in the courtroom. Mr. Brooks, I had the jury leave the courtroom because it appeared to me you wanted to perhaps either ask to come back into the courtroom or make another record of something. Do you want to come back into this courtroom as you call your next witness? You're not muted. You're unmuted.
So what's going on now? Why am I being held in contempt yet again?
The record will reflect that pursuant to Illinois versus Allen, Mr. Brooks was not held in contempt, although that is one of the possible ways for a trial judge to handle a defendant who is stubbornly defiant, disruptive, and contemptuous. That is not the only way in which a judge can address a defendant that is being discourteous, disrespectful, and disruptive. So pursuant to the authority in Illinois versus Allen, I found that you forfeited your right to be present based upon your conduct. I'd also direct the parties to some persuasive authority from other jurisdictions that are more recent, including People versus Cone from the state of Colorado, 160 P. 3rd 366. It's a Colorado Court of Appeals from 2007. And then from the state of Washington, from their Supreme Court, State versus Davis, 461 P. 3rd 1204. That's from 2020. And then I'd remind the parties of the finding was, sir, that you forfeited your right to be present based upon your conduct.
Okay, and all those case laws you just cited are pursuant to that.
Sir, I will ask you, would you like to come back into this courtroom as you continue with the calling of witnesses and your next witness?
I thought you was using Illinois versus Allen.
You are welcome to come back into this courtroom, sir.
So why was I removed in the first place then?
I've made my findings. The record will stand. I will ask you one last time. Would you like to come back into this courtroom as you call your next witness?
You're not finna hold me in contempt no more. Not finna do that.
Mr. Brooks is not answering my question directly, so based upon that, I'll advise him that if I will ask one more time and he fails to answer it with a yes or no, I will take that as a no, that he wants to stay in that courtroom.
You can't answer
Mr.
for
Brooks?
me. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Mr. Brooks, I'm advising you that I will. He's interrupting me once again.
Okay, you talking. You're the one talking right now, so don't do that.
I'm going to mute him because he's not being respectful and he's just spouting off. So he did not answer my question directly. He has not reclaimed his right to come back into the courtroom because, number one, he has not requested it. Number two, he hasn't answered my question about whether he wants to come back in. And number three, he hasn't stated or demonstrated a willingness to conduct himself consistently with the decorum and respect inherent in the concepts of courts and judicial proceedings. I will give him one more opportunity so that it's abundantly clear on this record that I am honoring his right to be present, and I will unmute him. Sir, would you like to come back into this courtroom as you call your next witness?
Don't try to seem like you're trying to honor my rights now because you haven't been doing it
he
before.
is, again, not answering the question directly.
Don't try to put on,
I'm going to mute him again. As I've noted before, this is a clear method now that Mr. Brooks is employing, that when I have done something that he disagrees with, that he just continues to argue with me and does not answer questions directly. So based upon his continued disruptive behavior, the fact that he will not answer my questions directly, I'll find that he is continuing to forfeit his right to be present in this courtroom. Clearly the audio and visual technology are working. He's been responding, although not appropriately. He is in that other courtroom. We can see him. He does have the headphones on, and I confirmed that he can see and hear as well based upon the court personnel that are in the other courtroom. So I'll make another finding that his appearance from the other courtroom is the functional equivalent of him being present in this courtroom. Mr. Brooks, before I unmute you, I am going to advise you, I will ask you to call your next witness. And if I don't get a direct response out of you, I may ask it again. And if you fail to give me a direct response, then you will forfeit your right to call any other witnesses. So I'm going to unmute you. Actually, I need to bring the jury back out. But before I do that, I will unmute you first and ask you which witness you intend to call so we can at least have that person ready to go and outside the courtroom. Who will be your next witness?
I'm not calling no witness if I got to be in this other courtroom.
Would you like to come back into this courtroom, sir?
Why was I ever removed? You never answered.
I've made a record of that, sir.
I have to answer everything, though. Everything you ask me, you expect me to answer. But then when I ask you questions, you never have to answer anything. I just put on the record that 2 of your bailiffs just made gestures. When I'm looking at them off the reflection of the screen, they're making gestures behind my head that make me feel uncomfortable. I just brought that up on the record. You didn't even address that.
Mr. Brooks, I didn't address it because, frankly, you keep interrupting me, and then I have to deal with the interruptions and make a record regarding that. So I just saw the captain walk over. I will let security personnel, Captain Dussault, look into that, and if appropriate, he can bring that conduct to my attention. I'd also remind the defendant that at any time you can also ask to be brought over through the bailiffs who are in that courtroom. So to be abundantly fair to you, I will ask one more time, would you like to come back over to this courtroom?
I should have never been removed.
That's not answering my question, sir.
You haven't answered my question.
The court's not going to answer questions directed at the court by the defendant because they're not relevant or probative at this time, and they're a delay and disruptive tactic.
They're
Mr.
not a
Brooks.
delay and disruptive tactic. Is that a judicial determination that you're making?
I'm going to mute you because we're going off on the judicial determinations. Every decision I make, sir, is by definition a judicial determination. It is on the record. If there is a conviction, you can raise whatever issues you want on appeal if you are convicted. But we don't need to have this back and forth every time to further make the record when the record speaks for itself. You were given plenty of opportunities throughout this trial to make offers of proof, to state your legal reasoning for either an objection or for a question that's being asked or for a whole host of other things. But right now you're not doing anything legally relevant. You're being disruptive. I would like you to be present. That is always what I want during this case. It certainly, I think, is important, but you can forfeit your right to be present by your conduct, which you have done repeatedly throughout this case. I will advise you that if you are in that courtroom, because I have put you there and you have not reclaimed the right to be present by number one, asking and then expressing a willingness to conduct yourself consistently with decorum and respect inherent in the concepts of courts and judicial proceedings, you will remain over there. And it looks like he took his headphones off, so I will. Mr. Brooks, I'm advising you that if you fail to call a witness, you will forfeit your right to present any additional witnesses. And I'm doing this outside the presence of the jury right now for a reason. I need to know from you right now, you are unmuted, who is your next witness?
She trying to say something to me? Yeah. What you trying to say?
That was very disrespectful, sir. You chose to take off your headphones?
Yeah,
you choose
because
to
I'm
read.
muted. I'm muted. So why am I going to have my headphones on and I'm muted?
Well, I would think your headphones help you hear. The
They
muting
do.
is so that I don't have to hear the disruptions.
Okay, well, then why should I need to hear what
So
you
let
saying?
me be clear, sir. And you
don't
are
gotta
not.
be clear or nothing. I don't got to listen to you.
I will ask you one last time, sir. Who is your next witness?
First of all, is she talking to me again?
He.
So
This.
we gotta keep doing this little childish stuff, dude. I gotta sit up here and I'm supposed to abide by every single rule, but don't nobody else gotta do that.
The record should
Judicial misconduct.
reflect that Mr. Brooks
Repeatedly.
is spouting off, making
I think
unsubstantiated
the record can hear me. I
allegations
think they can hear me.
against this court,
Unless I'm
directly
muted.
attacking the integrity of this court and these proceedings, while yet
This court ain't got no
refusing
integrity.
to answer
This court don't have
simple
no
questions. Mr. Brooks, you
That's
are,
not my name. I told you I don't consent to being called that name.
sir, you are hereby advised this is the last time I will ask this question,
Don't talk
or
to me
you
like
will
that.
forfeit your right to present
You can't do that.
any
Show me what-
additional
show me
witnesses,
where that's law.
because
Show
you
me
are
where
not
that's law.
cooperating with this process.
Show me that it's law. That's all I'm asking. Show me that it's lawful law.
Mr. Brooks,
How can I forfeit not being able to have a defense? Are you kidding me?
all I'm asking is that you conduct yourself with dignity, with decorum, and with respect. I will
Okay.
gladly bring you back into this courtroom so you can present your additional witnesses. But
right.
you need to ask me to come back into this courtroom.
With all due respect, I'm tired of having this back and forth with you every day. It's not my intention to come in here and have these interactions with you every day. It's not. Regardless to what you may think, regardless to how you may feel, that is not my intention. Okay? I simply do what I do because I do not have the understanding. So if I don't understand something, I'm going to ask a question. I apologize if it makes you feel that I'm intentionally trying to delay the proceedings. If I'm intentionally trying to be disruptive. Because that's not the case. And I feel very disrespected every time the record is made, making it seem like that's what I'm attempting to do. So of course it's gonna frustrate. Of course it's gonna make me a little bit upset. And I just want you to understand that. It seems to me the way I'm interpreting what you're doing, which is it is your courtroom. That's not it. It's not a dispute. That's not up for debate. You control what's going on in there. That's not a dispute. But the way I'm interpreting what you're doing is that I'm being held in contempt. That's how I'm interpreting. Because one of the three things that's cited in the Illinois versus Allen, one of them is being gagged. I haven't been gagged. One of them is held in contempt.
What's the third, Mr. Brooks? What's the third?
The third is removed from the courtroom while the trial continues, right? That's the third, right?
And that's what's been done.
Okay. So now, where does it say after that having me on a headset or being able to see and hear and all this and this, how is that not prejudicing my defense?
Sir, you can raise that issue on appeal. You can raise that issue on appeal if you are convicted.
This is why I say that, though. Because I can't even see. The only thing I can see right now when I'm looking at the TV is you and the prosecution table. I can't see anything else.
I understand that, sir. I'm fully aware of that.
So I'm not fully aware of what's going on in the courtroom. Don't I deserve that right to be able to see and hear everything that's going on?
If you can conduct yourself consistently with the decorum and respect inherent in the concepts of courts and judicial proceedings, the answer then is yes. So I'm not going to have a debate with you about the law. I will ask you again, would you like to come back into this courtroom?
Are you going to kick me out?
Sir, I'm asking the questions right now. Would you like to come back into this courtroom? Yes or no?
Are you going to kick me out?
Sir, it's a yes or no question. Would you like to come back into this?
My answer was based on the reason why I'm answering like that is because the moment I say something, it's going to get me put out. I don't want to keep hauling this stuff back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It makes essentially it wastes time, really.
I'm well aware of that, sir. That it delays the proceedings.
But then it's laid at my feet as if that's my attempt. You think I want to be over here?
Sir, I don't know what you want or don't want at this time. I know that we need to complete this trial and that you have frustrated today more than ever before the ability of this court to do that.
Well, I apologize for you feeling that way, but I'm frustrated too. And nobody seems to take that into account. I'm just as frustrated as everybody. Probably more.
Then I suggest that you conform your conduct to the requirements of courtesy and decorum so that you don't run the risk of forfeiting your right to be present. But that falls on you and you alone, sir.
There is no conduct. I don't understand what you mean by that. I really don't.
Mr. Brooks, you may not understand it. I don't think that's accurate. I think you know exactly what you're doing.
If that's what you think, that's fine.
And you have demonstrated throughout this case that you pay attention to witnesses' testimony, that you make cogent and coherent objections. At times that you have even had evidence suppressed in this case or stricken. That's the word I used during this case. You made an opening statement. You communicate with witnesses. So you clearly read, write, and understand English. That's not an issue here, sir.
It's not fair.
Are you self-represented? Absolutely. Does that present difficulties and disadvantages? absolutely. But that takes me back to when you waived your right to counsel. And you did so knowingly, freely, voluntarily, and with a full understanding of the disadvantages and advantages of doing so, meaning advantages of having an attorney, the disadvantages of doing it on your own, and you made a deliberate decision to represent yourself, and that comes at a risk to you of, yes, at times not fully understanding the law, the rules of evidence, the rules of procedure, but you do so at your peril.
That's not fair to state, Your Honor, because.
So I'm going to do the following, since I'm not really getting anywhere. I'm going to mute you for the moment. I'm not getting anywhere with him. I would like him to be brought over, and he has a choice to make. He can come back over, or he doesn't. Either way, he's going to be asked to call a witness in front of the jury. I will ask him 3 times if he fails to give me a direct answer, and after the 3rd time, I will make the appropriate finding, but I will do that outside the presence of the jury. But we are going to continue. So we'll go off the record, and he will come back over here. Thank you. We are in recess until that happens. Is he wearing a suit and tie? Actually, his suit coat is off, but he's still wearing a mask. And the jury will be brought out, and you'll be asked to call your next witness.
Didn't call out that name.
So noted.
And we still need to address subject matter jurisdiction before the jury's brought out.
I will not be doing that.
Will it be proven for the record?
The record stands.
So is that a tacit agreement that you don't have to answer that question, Your Honor?
I make no such agreements with you, sir.
So that means you can answer a question then. Will we be addressing subject matter jurisdiction on the record, and will it be verified and proven? Non-responsive answer is a tacit agreement, Your Honor.
Jury's coming out. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. The defense may call its next witness.
Who's here?
Bertram, Hayes, Aldrich, and Lescano are present and ready, Your Honor.
Thank you.
What was the last 2?
Aldrich and Lescano.
Go with Deanna Aldridge.
Deanna Aldridge? All right, very well.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I think she was in the other building, so.
That's all right. Thank you for letting us know. Good afternoon, Miss Aldrich. If you would please make your way to the witness stand. It is up by me. It's up a riser. When you get all the way to the witness stand, please remain standing. Raise your right hand, and my clerk, Teresa, who's on my left and will be across from you, will swear you in.
Okay. Deanna Aldrich, Deanna. Last name is Aldrich.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir, your witness.
Good afternoon, Miss Aldrich. Direct your attention. Well, first of all, let me back up a little bit. What do you currently do for a living?
I'm retired.
That's always pretty good. Direct your attention to the evening of November 21 of 2021. Do you recall that evening pretty good?
Yes.
Where were you staying at the time?
I live on Maple Avenue.
And during that evening, did you hear anything unusual?
I did.
And do you recall what that was?
I heard a large thumping noise in my neighbor's yard, and when I came out to my porch, I saw a red SUV.
Back up a little bit to the thumping noise. Can you describe that thumping noise? Would it just be a thumping? Did it sound like a crash or anything of that nature?
I believe it was like the engine dropping kind of noise.
Okay. And you stated you looked out your patio and saw a red SUV?
I did.
Do you recall how that SUV looked at that time?
It was smashed to smithereens.
Do you recall if the red SUV was still running at the time that you observed it?
Yes.
And at some point, did it cut off?
Yes.
And what did you see from that point?
Before I seen it shut off, I seen it go forward in the driveway and then back up like 3 feet. And then someone got out of the car and ran around the bushes to the front of my building.
And who's the someone that you are referring to?
At that time, I didn't have my glasses on, so I could not see clearly.
What do you recall?
As far as
description-wise, yeah.
Dark hair, possibly white or purple or whatever color shirt, and dark pants.
Do you recall a height?
I think he was probably anywhere between 5'6" and 6 foot. I really couldn't tell because of the angle.
So I'm assuming then your patio is kind of on a upward base type of angle that you would have kind of been looking
I was
sort of
looking
down?
down, yes.
Okay. And the individual you stated ran in what direction at the time that you were observing?
My porch is here, and he ran from the driveway here around to the front of my building.
Did you see where the individual went from that point, or could you not see because of where you were positioned on the patio?
He stopped to, if you were looking at the building, he stopped to the right of the building front.
And the building front, is that a street?
Yes. Not all the way to the street, though.
Okay.
He was in the front yard on the grass.
Did you at any time observe this individual jump over the hood?
I was running in and out of my house, so I did not see because I was trying to find my glasses as I was running in and out.
So is it fair to say you were trying to locate your glasses so you can get a better look at what you were observing?
Yes.
Do you recall if the SUV had any tinted windows?
I do not recall.
Do you recall what time of the evening you heard the loud thumping and then observed the SUV?
I do not recall.
And before that evening, had you ever noticed that SUV before that evening?
No.
Did you speak with any of your neighbors to inquire who the SUV may have belonged to?
No, there was people coming outside from the building that the driveway was, and they were gonna walk up to the vehicle, but they did not because I yelled to them and said, "Don't touch it."
So that kind of would be fair to say that kind of startled them and stopped them in their tracks.
Yeah.
Do you recall how many people there were?
Maybe 10.
And at some point, did law enforcement come to your home and interview you about what you observed that evening?
Yes.
And do you know if they? Well, I'm assuming they took a report. Would that be fair to say?
They came up to my apartment and asked me some questions.
Do you recall if they were writing it down or recording it?
Writing it down.
If you recall, did you ever learn what the loud noises were that you heard before seeing the SUV?
No.
And the street that you observed the individual running toward, do you recall what street that would have been based on the direction?
Arlington Avenue would be right directly in front of that building.
You didn't see the individual run towards Maple Street?
He ran towards Maple Street and came around the bushes directly to the right of my patio, being up high.
But that general direction would have been, which street did you say?
Arlington.
Arlington. I apologize. Were you aware that there was a parade going on that evening?
Yes.
Did you attend?
No.
After you spoke with the law enforcement officers that evening, did any more law enforcement officers come back and interview you at any time after that evening?
They did not interview me that evening. They came early the next day on the 22nd.
Oh, I'm sorry. After the 22nd, did any other law enforcement come back out to interview?
No.
Do you recall the name of the officer that interviewed you?
No.
No further questions at this time.
Thank you. Any cross?
No cross, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. You are excused. Defense may call its next witness.
The defense calls Christopher Bertram.
All right, thank you. I presume the state heard that and was assisting. Thank you.
Your Honor, my assistant.
I didn't want to assume, so thank you for
Yes.
verifying that. Looks like this one's a lot closer than before, so that's good. All right, good afternoon, Mr. Bertram. If you would please make your way to the witness stand, which is off to my right. It is up one riser. When you get there, please remain standing, raise your right hand, and my clerk, Teresa, who's on my left and across from you, will swear you in.
My first name is Christopher, and my last name is Bertram.
Could you spell those, please?
CHRISTOPHER BERTRAM.
Thank you. As long as you sit close to the table, you will not have to lean in. Go ahead, sir, your witness.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, your witness.
First of all, good afternoon. What do you currently do for a living?
I do electrical work.
Directing your attention to the evening of November 21st, 2021. Do you recall that evening pretty well?
Not very.
Do you recall what you were doing that evening?
Yes.
And what were you doing that evening?
Taking my mother's car to our mechanic friend.
Were you aware of a parade going on that evening?
No.
Around what time were you taking your mom's car to be inspected?
I don't recall.
Do you recall seeing anything that caught your attention that evening?
Yes.
Can you state what that was?
A smashed up red car.
And do you recall where you saw that at?
I believe it is Prospect Court Street.
And at the time you observed this smashed up car, as you say, did you see anyone driving it?
Yes.
And were you able to make a description of who's driving it?
I believe so.
And what do you recall?
I don't recall what I said.
You don't recall what you said or saw?
I don't recall what I exactly said when I gave my statement.
Do you recall what you saw?
No.
You made reference to giving the statement. I'm assuming that would be to law enforcement. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And did they write down
Well, let me back up. How was that interview conducted? Was that an in-person interview, over the phone, or?
In person.
And do you recall if the law enforcement officer was writing down what you were telling them or recording it?
I don't recall.
Did you observe the vehicle stop at any point in time?
No.
So it was pretty much you just saw it just kind of just rolling past.
Yes.
Did you notice if the vehicle had any tents?
Any what?
Tents, like tinted windows?
No.
Do you recall in your interview with law enforcement, well, let me back up a little bit. Was your interview with law enforcement the same evening that you saw this vehicle or sometime after?
The same evening.
Do you recall stating during the interview that evening that you observed the driver as a black male with short hair and a short beard?
I don't recall exactly what I said.
Do you recall stating at any time during that interview that evening that you believe you saw the operator of the vehicle reach down and grab something as they were driving past?
Yes.
Did you ever see them? Did you ever see what you believe was being grabbed?
No.
And what did you think at that moment that you saw the operator of this vehicle reach down?
I was unsure.
Do you recall in your interview with law enforcement that evening stating that you thought it was possibly a gun?
Yes.
And where did you observe the vehicle go after it had passed you?
I turned away after it passed me.
Do you recall what the operator of the vehicle was wearing at the time that it passed you?
I do not remember.
Do you recall during your interview with law enforcement that evening stating that you thought the operator was wearing a black sweater or jacket as it drove past you?
If that is what is written.
Do you recall saying that?
No.
And do you recall where your interview with law enforcement that evening took place?
Yes.
And where did it take place?
My house.
And was anyone present with you during your interview with law enforcement that evening?
Yes.
And who was that?
My mother.
And do you recall what agency your interview was conducted by?
Yes.
And would you state for the jury in the record?
The FBI.
Do you recall stating in your interview that evening with law enforcement that you heard a lot of gunshots?
Yes.
And do you recall I think that's a little bit unfair to say. If you had to estimate where do you think those gunshots were coming from, like vicinity-wise?
It sounded from downtown.
And when you say a lot of shots, what would you describe as a lot of shots?
Like a full magazine.
Do you recall seeing the vehicle that you observed crash into anything?
No.
Do you recall stating in your interview with law enforcement that evening that the vehicle appeared to slow down while traveling down Prospect Court?
Yes.
At some time after observing this vehicle, did you call 911?
Yes.
Do you recall around what time you called 911?
No.
Do you recall shortly after seeing this vehicle texting anyone?
Yes.
Do you recall who that was?
My girlfriend.
And what did you tell her?
I don't remember.
Do you recall telling her there's a shooting?
Possibly.
Did you see anyone else in the vehicle?
No.
But you do recall seeing the operator wearing a black sweater.
I don't remember.
Did you observe at any time that evening seeing someone run from the vehicle?
No.
Do you recall why you would have gave a description that evening when initially interviewed by law enforcement?
Because I saw the person in the car.
And how did that person look?
I don't remember.
Grounds?
His answer may stand.
What was the answer?
He said, I don't recall, or I don't remember.
No further questions at this time.
Thank you. Any cross? No. Thank you, sir. You may step down, and you are excused. All right, go ahead and call your next witness.
And when we get to the next break, I have something to discuss outside of the presence of the jury. If that pleases the court.
Do you want to do that now or after your next
We
witness?
can.
All right, I'll address a legal issue, and we'll bring the jury back in when we're ready. All rise for the jury, please. Everyone can have a seat, and then we'll just wait for the door to close. Go ahead, Mr. Brooks.
I'm curious. Some of these, judging by the reports, how are some of these answers allowed to pass when they're coming straight from reports made by the people on the stand? Very curious.
I don't understand your question. I'm not sure what you're asking me.
What I'm asking is, reading from the report that the people on the stand are giving, the report that they gave to law enforcement,
If you're asking me whether there's a mechanism in the rules of evidence and how to establish that before the jury, the answer to that is yes. If you're asking me how you do that, I'm not going to answer that.
I didn't ask how. I just, to be blunt, which I've been since the beginning of this trial, obviously, I see the whole strategy here by the prosecution. I see right through it. Don't have any cross-examination, mainly because you've already schooled the people getting on the stand on how to answer certain things.
Well, that is completely speculative on your part without
It's
any
obvious.
basis in law or fact.
It's obvious.
Sir, you could ask questions that establish that. You can ask them if they've met with anyone. You haven't done that. So for you to say that right now is without basis. If you want to...
It's clear.
If you are looking to elicit what they said in the report, there is a way under the rules of evidence based upon the way the witnesses have answered to clarify that. But that requires you to call certain witnesses. I'm not going to give you any more legal advice further than that.
I don't think I have to
So
call any other witnesses that's
if
not
you're
on the
asking me to
stand.
strike their testimony based on your
I didn't say
perceived,
anything
then that's
about that.
all right. Then I'm going to bring the jury back out and you're going to call your next witness. So I'm
So
not
is you-
hearing a request from you at this time. You said you wanted to raise a legal issue. What's the legal issue?
The legal issue is how is the state allowed to coach the
You're
people getting on the
assuming they
stand?
spoke to them and coached them.
It's obvious. I'm not stupid.
Well, I disagree with that, sir. Again, you could ask
All of a
questions to
sudden,
lay a foundation
all of a sudden the
with
state
these
don't
witnesses.
got. All of a sudden, for the first time in trial, all of a sudden now they don't got no cross. That's clearly a rush to try to get through the case. Hurry up. We just gonna let these people go.
Well, this
and
is
not-
argument.
Come on, man.
This is argument on your part,
I
sir.
see
It
through
is pure
I
commentary
just
at
want
this
that on the
point.
record. I see through it.
And your
Nice try,
see-through
but I see through it.
has absolutely no basis in
Yeah,
fact.
I know that's what's being done.
You
Come
could
on, man.
ask
I'm-
these questions. You could
Come on,
ask
man.
these
Got the right
witnesses
one.
certain questions, and you're not.
I'm far from an idiot.
They're your witnesses, sir. If you believe,
So I'm gonna start asking every witness up here that they seem just to mysteriously now not have any cross for. Have they been coached to answer the way they answer? Because
well, you can't
I
ask
find-
that, but
I
you can
find
ask
it
them
very
if they've
funny.
met with anyone ahead of
I
their
find it
testimony
very
here
funny.
today,
I find
which
it
you've
very
done
funny.
with other witnesses.
I find it very funny that these are their reports, and now all of a sudden you can. Oh, I saw the person in the car. Oh, but
Mr. Brooks,
I
this
saw
is
them
an
reach
attempt
for
by
something.
you
Oh,
to
I don't.
delay these
I don't recall
proceedings.
what they had on.
Mr. Brooks,
You can
there's
recall
no
seeing
purpose
somebody
for you
reach
saying
something
this
and
right
don't
now.
know what they had on. I find that
All right,
very.
I'm having the jury brought
man.
out. I'm instructing you to
Come on,
avoid
man.
the commentary when the jury comes out, or you will
I didn't
forfeit
say-
your right to be
I didn't
present.
say nothing.
Before we do that, there's an issue that we do need to take up potential as to a witness by the name of Abel Lescano. He has prior criminal history.
Thank you.
So as long as the jury's out, we should probably discuss that. I would like to provide the defendant and the court with a copy.
So that had
of
to be
the-
said. So it's the defendant.
That's not how it was said. I
That was how I
completely
said. You want to
disagree.
run the record back?
Mr. Brooks,
So I'm the only one. I got one. I
Mr.
got one
Brooks.
ear that work, and I heard that.
this
Come on,
is
man.
to benefit
man.
you so
No,
that
it's
you
not.
understand
Ain't none of
your
this to benefit
witness
me, so let's be
has
clear
a
about
prior
that.
record.
Your Honor, when I leave the table, I'm away from the courtroom and I have to elevate my voice. This is the
So she had to
alleged
elevate her
record of
voice
Abel
just for
Lescano.
that.
Stop talking.
Come on, man. Like, I don't know who y'all be thinking y'all fooling. I accept the value in return for value this document.
One more interruption and you're going to be removed to the next courtroom.
That's what you want to do anyway.
It's not what I want to do. Do not interrupt Attorney Opera.
So can
Your
you
Honor,
tell?
I
can you
believe he
explain-
has 7 prior criminal convictions. OWI 2nd from 1997, an OWI 3rd from 1997, an OWI 4th from 2003, criminal trespass to dwelling from 2006.
All right, I need to take a break. This man right now is having a stare down with me. It's very disrespectful. He pounded his fist. Frankly, it makes me scared. And we're taking a break. Were before. I'd like to continue by bringing the jury out momentarily, Madam Clerk, and having you call your next witness. I trust that you're ready to do that, sir. All right, then.
We need to complete the task of the
Oh, we do.
priors for Mr.
I knew I would left something in my office, but I reviewed it, so go ahead. What is the state's request then as it relates to the prior record?
We believe the proper answer would be 7 prior convictions, Your Honor, and that would not obviously be counting the OWI first conviction from 1993, which is at the top because it's the age of that, and obviously that would not have been a crime. But everything from OWI second on down we believe would be appropriate. There's also one that's noted, 06CM2039. It was a case, but all the charges were dismissed and read in, so we're not counting that file either.
Can you go run and get that for me, please? Thank you. Just gonna have that brought back out. I took it with and I left it on my desk. And then remind me the statute again on priors.
90609.
Thank you. And a copy of the record was provided to the defendant.
It was. It has not been discussed with Mr. Lizcano.
That was going to be kind of my next topic once, thank you, I look at this again. All right, Mr. Brooks, do you have a position on the prior convictions for this witness? The state is asking for a determination by this court that there are 7 prior convictions for purposes of questioning the witness, whether that's by you or by them if they so choose. And that would be for a determination under 90609.
What? I don't know what you're asking.
Mr. Brooks, you may recall at some point I believe we had a discussion about prior convictions. I think maybe we only discussed that if you were to testify, we would have to have that conversation. So in fairness, I don't
No, there was one state's witness that had one prior that we discussed. And
That's
the court
right.
ruled.
We did. I recall now. So at that point, I directed your attention to 90609. And then I made a ruling based upon the factors that are enumerated in that statute. You've been provided with a listing of the record. I would direct your attention to, I'm not sure if I see that book out there, but the statute book that I previously provided to you, but that the 90609 would be in there. But in any event, the state is asking that I make a determination about how many for purposes of the questioning of this witness. Do you have any comment, statement, or position on that?
Looks like it's 9 on here.
Which is the one the state referenced that the charges are listed, but they were dismissed?
2000, well, it's recorded as 06CM2039, 2 times violate harassment/restraining order, and then it says DM/RI, which means dismissed and read in. 2X MBJ, which would be 2 times misdemeanor bail jumping, dismissed and read in. So no convictions from that file.
So why is it on the sheet?
This would be an accurate listing of the cases that you found when investigating the witness's background.
Yes, Your Honor.
And nothing since 2007.
That's correct.
All right. Any statement you want to make, sir, on what the number of convictions this court should consider under 90609?
What is dismissed and read in? Does that mean there was no charge?
No, it means it was when there was a conviction for something else, the charge was dismissed and read in, and then the court considered it at the time of sentencing. So they are not convictions, but it was a case. So that's why, my understanding, why it was listed.
So the two. So where it says dismissed and read in, that would be the restraining order and the MBJ.
Right, misdemeanor bail jumping. So 2 counts of violate harassment restraining order were dismissed and read in, along with 2 counts of misdemeanor bail jumping dismissed and read in. I'm guessing, but the state can confirm that it either was read into 06 CM 1859 or 06 CM 3149.
Yes, I believe it was the 1859 case, Your Honor.
So at the time of the conviction for resisting obstructing, there was a misdemeanor bail jumping dismissed and read in, and then the other charges, all of which are listed under 06 CM 2039, dismissed and read in.
So then 8. Should be 8.
The OWI first would not be criminal, as I understand it, and so I believe that's why it's not, the state did not ask it that it be counted. Because the statute requires conviction of a crime or an adjudication of delinquency.
So there's no crime for OWI?
An OWI first would not be a crime, it would be a forfeiture.
I still would say 8, just based on the fact that there's continued OWIs. All the way up to a 5th.
I'll remind the parties of the factors to consider for exclusion include the lapse of time since the conviction, or in this case convictions, the rehabilitation or pardon of the person convicted, the gravity of the crime, the involvement of dishonesty or false statement in the crime, the frequency of the convictions, and any other relevant factors. So based on that, do you have any argument that it should be less than that?
Less than what, 8?
Well, it'd be less than 7. He has 7 convictions as I count them.
And that's not counting OWI first.
Correct, because it's not a crime. It can't be counted under the statute.
Then it's 7. Should be 7.
All right. Do you want to make any argument about whether any should be excluded under the statute based upon the factors I just read to you?
Well, you already made reference to one of them not being a crime. So that brings it to 8. I don't understand the whole.
Well, for example, the last conviction was in 2007. It's now 2022. So do you want to make an argument to the court that perhaps he's been rehabilitated?
I don't want to speculate on the next man's life, but if it's 7 on here, well, I guess it brings it to 7. And whether OWI first is not a crime, it still counts as what it essentially is nowhere to get to 2, 3, 4, and 5 without the first. Looks like 7 to me.
All right, then. Anything further from the state on this?
No, Judge, thank you.
Given the number of convictions, factually, although the first one's not a crime, the OWI first, Mr. Brooks is correct, is from 1993, and without that you don't get the other criminal OWIs. But I would note the record is from the criminal record is from 1997 through 2007. That spans about a 10-year time span. It's now 2022, but there's essentially an agreement by the parties that there are 7 convictions that are listed here. I've looked at the lapse of time since the convictions. I don't know about rehabilitation or pardon, other than it looks like he did complete the earned release program, which would have resulted in a reduction of initial confinement and then converted to extended supervision. I don't see violations of probation listed, meaning that he was revoked. I see some extensions, but that could be for a variety of reasons. But given that there was a pattern with the OWIs, that the last one was a felony, that goes to the gravity of the crime. And the other issues, I'll find that for purposes of his testimony, that this witness has 7 convictions. He may be asked, have you been convicted of a crime? His answer should be yes. And then the follow-up, how many times? The answer will be 7.
That will have to be told to Mr. Lozano before he testifies, Your Honor, I believe.
I agree. State willing to relay that information?
I'd rather not. Given the accusations levied by Mr. Brooks, I think it's better we do it in open court, Your Honor.
All right. Who's your next witness? Will it be Mr. Lozano? Because if it is, I'll just have him come in now and I can put him on the stand and advise him of that.
May I ask who's present right now?
For sure, Mr. Hayes and Mr. Lozano, and I'm not sure the 330 witnesses, I think, are probably on their way. They're on their way.
All right, so Hayes and Lozano are still here?
Yes.
All right. Those are the 2 who are here, sir. I'll tell you what, either way, let's just bring Mr. Lozano in case he's not your first, but then I don't have to deal with the interruption with the jury. You don't have to call him first unless you want to, but I'll just bring him in and advise him. So if someone from victim witness could bring him in, please. Can I have a first name for this witness, please?
It's
Abel?
Abel,
Thank you.
but I believe it's pronounced a different way. It's Abel. What did she say?
Abel, thank you.
Abel.
Subject matter jurisdiction, Your Honor.
Court declines to address that.
Still has yet to be verified and proven for the record.
Your objection's noted for the record. Do you want Mr. Lozano on the stand, or are you going to call Mr. Hayes first? Just so I know what to do when he comes in.
I don't currently I can't find paperwork from Mr. Hayes. Can a police report or something be provided in case I want to call Mr. Hayes first?
Yes, we will accommodate that request. It'll just take me a minute, Your Honor, to find it. I'll have to have it printed and brought over, or Mr. Witchow can run. Thank you, Mr.
I will give you
Witchow.
permission to email it to Teresa and she can print it in the courtroom.
Well,
That will assist.
It's part of a 700-page PDF, so I can't just email one page.
I see.
At least I don't know how to do that. Copy and paste it into a Word document.
That's all right. You can do it the way that you need to. All right. Mr. Lascano, I'm just going to have you, for a moment, take a seat. You're not going to testify just yet, but just come up and take a seat just at the end of my jury box for now. I'm not going to have you come up to the witness stand. Everyone can have a seat. I want to advise you that I'm aware you have a prior record. And so for purposes of testimony, I've made a determination that if asked, have you been convicted of a crime? Your answer should be yes. And then if someone asks the follow-up, how many times? The answer to that is 7. Have you heard me say that?
Yes.
Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'm not sure that you'll be called next, but I wanted to do that while I didn't have the jury here. You can go back out into the hallway then. Thank you. All right, then, let's have the jury brought out, please. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. The defense may call its next witness.
Defense calls, is it Jason Hayes? Jason?
All right. We'll have the witness brought in. Is it Haynes or Hayes? Does anyone know?
No N, to the best of my knowledge.
Hayes?
No N, no.
All right. Good afternoon, sir. If you would please make your way to the witness stand, which is on my right. The first thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record and spell each.
Jason, Jason, Hayes, Hayes.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir. Your witness.
Just 1 second. I accept for value and return for value this document for the record. Good afternoon, Mr. Hayes. Is that how you pronounce it, Hayes?
Yep.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a retail sales associate for a food broker, Damon Worldwide.
Been doing that for a long time?
21 years.
Yeah, it's a long time. The evening of November 21st, 2021. You recall that evening pretty well?
Fairly well, yes.
What were you doing that evening?
Went to the parade.
Did you go to the parade with family, friends?
I went there with my daughter.
Do you recall what time you arrived?
30 minutes before the parade started.
Were you
scheduled to do any marching in the parade itself,
No.
or just spectating?
Yes.
Just for the record, did you say yes to being a spectator?
Yes.
Thank
That's
you.
what I thought he said.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure there was.
Yeah, he answered. He answered. Anything unusual catch your eye that day that you recall?
Yes.
And what did you see?
Besides the parade,
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was unusual that caught your eye that evening.
well, where we were, yes, a red truck came through where we were. It honked and swerved.
I guess I want to back up a little bit. Where were you positioned at that
We
time?
were all the way at the beginning of the parade.
Okay.
Like, it was Main and the corner of Main and White Rock.
Okay. And you said you observed this vehicle honked and swerved?
Yes.
What did it swerve from?
I'm sorry.
What did it swerve from?
Where?
Or was it, I guess the correct question would be, why did it swerve?
I don't know. I wasn't driving. I don't know what his intentions were.
And you stated that the vehicle honked. Was that just a single honk, or was it a beep beep, or
One honk.
do you recall stating that it honked several times?
I don't
And
recall.
when you were initially.
I don't recall.
So well, before we get to that, did you see where the vehicle went after it honked and swerved?
Yes, it kept on going straight down Main, east, well, the same route the parade went.
Did you get a description of who was driving the vehicle you saw that
I
day?
did not.
Did you get a license plate?
I did not.
Do you recall if the vehicle had any tinted windows?
No.
And I'm assuming at some point you either were interviewed by law enforcement or seek to be interviewed by law enforcement.
I did, by a detective.
And do you recall if that was the same evening, or
It was not the same evening.
so
It was a
that
couple days
prior?
after.
Okay. Do you recall in that interview that you had with the detective stating that your kids were playing in the roadway and the operator of the vehicle honked the horn several times and veered to the left around the kids?
Yes.
So in your opinion, it wasn't trying to strike the kids?
Correct. Yes.
And after it continued, I think you said east.
Yep.
Would that be correct? East.
Yep.
Did you see the vehicle strike anyone?
I did not. No.
Do you recall what side of the street the vehicle was traveling on at that
It
time?
was on the right side.
On the right side.
So we were on the north side of the road.
Okay. So the right side would be.
Yep.
Okay. Did you see the vehicle stay on the north side of the road for the duration of the time that you observed it?
Yes.
So you never saw it go to the other side of the road, or
No.
further questions at this time.
Thank you. Any cross?
Yes, just briefly. Good afternoon, Mr. Hayes.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for your attendance, sir. Mr. Hayes, do you remember seeing a police officer at this intersection as well?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you remember writing in your report or telling the police officer that a police officer chased the vehicle on foot?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. It's cross. You may answer.
I do remember that I thought I saw a police chasing after the car on foot.
Okay. And do you remember also telling the same officer that the SUV took off down the street and that it accelerated?
Yes.
Objection.
Is that...
Hold on, there's been an objection.
I guess the objection to be what officer is being referred to wasn't clear.
Overruled. The state may continue asking the question.
I guess I was asking, was that referring to the interview officer?
Your objection is noted. It's overruled. The state may ask the question fully.
Is that your recollection, sir, that the vehicle sped off and accelerated away?
Yes.
Objection, speculative.
Overruled.
Do you also recall telling the officer who interviewed you that the driver of the vehicle had a dark complexion and a beard?
Yes.
Is that accurate with your recollection of the driver?
Yes.
But you didn't see a face, you couldn't
No.
identify anybody beyond those descriptions, correct?
Hold on. There's been an objection to leading. It's overruled. The witness may answer.
No.
All right, thank you, sir. Those were all my questions.
Thank you. Any redirect, sir?
Briefly, very briefly. You made a reference to the driver of the vehicle having a dark complexion. What would you consider a dark complexion?
A dark complexion. I don't know.
It is kind of hard. Did you notice any clothing?
I did not. No.
Did you notice any hair?
No.
No further questions?
All right, thank you. You may step down. And you are excused. The defense may call its next witness, please.
Quick question before I do: who's supposed to be arriving at 3:30? Just so I know.
I'm not sure.
Babiettes and Darrell will be here at 3:30. Mr. Liscano is here now, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I knew it was here now. Just trying to get clarity.
Are you going to call Mr. Liscano?
It would appear so. He's the one that's here.
All right, then he may. The defense is calling Abel Liscano, correct?
The defense is calling Abel Liscano.
All right, very well. We'll have him brought in. Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. If you would please make your way to the witness stand. First thing I will have you do is to state your first and last names for the record and spell each.
Abel Liscano, ABELLAZCANO.
Thank you. Your witness, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Liscano. What do you do for a living currently?
I'm a hairdresser.
No judgment whatsoever on this question. Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
Yes, I have.
And how many times?
7.
Do you recall the night of November 21st, 2021 pretty well? I know it's been a minute, but
Best as I can, yeah.
What were you doing that evening, if you recall?
The Christmas parade?
Were you marching in the parade? Or?
No, I was watching it.
Who were you there with? Family, friends?
My wife and my daughter.
Do you recall where you were positioned to watch the parade?
I was standing in front of the Corey Insurance on Main Street.
Okay. Is that part of Main Street close to like a side street? If you recall?
Not too far from Maple.
Do you recall the side streets being barricaded during the parade?
I don't remember.
Do you recall what time you arrived at the parade that evening?
It had just started, so whatever time that was at.
Okay. You recall something other than the parade catching your attention that day?
People getting hurt, yeah.
And what did you see that day, if you recall?
I saw a red SUV plow over a bunch of people.
And did you see the driver of this SUV you're referring to?
Yeah, you're standing right there.
And how many people did you see in the vehicle?
Just one, the driver.
So, do you recall flagging down a law enforcement vehicle that evening?
Yeah, I do.
And do you recall what you told the officer that evening?
Not very well.
I'm gonna attempt to see if anything brings back some recollection. First, do you recall the name of the officer you flagged down that evening?
Officer Moss.
Do you recall telling Officer Moss that you observed 3 or 4 people in the SUV as it passed you?
I don't remember that.
So, to your recollection, the SUV that you saw, did it have tinted windows?
I don't remember.
And do you remember what the description was that evening that you gave to law enforcement?
I told him it was a red SUV.
The description of the driver, do you remember that?
Yeah, I know he was a black male.
Is that all you recall about your description?
That's all I remember.
After seeing this vehicle, what did you do?
We left. I got my family out of there.
And where did you go?
We headed back to the car.
Do you recall where your vehicle was parked?
I believe it's the Lindholm or what building? It's on Maple Street.
And did you see the vehicle stop on Maple Street?
Which vehicle?
The SUV that you claim you saw.
Oh, no, I didn't see it stop, no. It kept going through the parade.
And speaking with, is it Detective Moss? Well, speaking with law enforcement that evening, do you recall advising law enforcement that you observed 3 black subjects running from the vehicle?
No, I don't remember that.
If it pleases the court, I would like to show the witness this. I'm referring to page 4 exactly.
Is it a statement this witness personally wrote?
I believe it's what, I don't think he wrote it himself.
So it's a summary written by another person?
By, I don't know if it's Officer Moss or Detective Moss. I'm not sure what his rank is.
Continue with your questions. I'm going to deny the request that you show the exhibit or the paperwork to the witness.
Do you recall making the statements to Detective Moss that you observed one where it says one was described as running southbound on Maple towards College Avenue? Do you recall that?
No, I don't.
Do you recall stating that the other 2 were described as running in a westerly direction from the rear of 338 Maple Street?
No.
Do you recall stating that one black subject was described as tall, wearing a blue top and blue and black pants, while the other subjects were described as 2 short black males wearing sweatpants?
Barely, a little bit of that.
So, which of these subjects do you minimally recall wearing those items that evening?
No, you asked me if I remember people running, and I said no. I remember describing those people to him. I remember.
So where did you observe those?
Standing by the vehicle, where I found the vehicle, where I spotted it.
Just so we have clarity, describe the subjects you saw that evening standing by the vehicle.
I don't remember that good. I mean, you were describing them, so it brought back a little bit, but I can't tell you. That was too long ago.
And how did you come upon the vehicle at the address of 338 Maple Street that evening?
I was walking my family back to the car. Trying to get them to safety. So I was keeping an eye out and I spotted it.
Do you recall stating that you saw the SUV reverse into a driveway?
No.
Do you recall why that would be reported?
No. When I found it, it was parked already.
Do you recall when you initially had the interaction with Detective Moss? Do you recall leading him to where the vehicle was ultimately found?
Yeah.
Do you recall yelling at subjects standing outside of the building where, or near where the vehicle was that evening?
I remember asking them. I don't remember yelling at them.
Do you recall why? Do you recall why the report says that you advised Detective Moss that there are 3 black subjects, specifically black subjects, running from the vehicle?
No, I don't remember.
Were you yourself injured in this incident that evening?
No.
Do you recall stating that, well, let me back up for a minute. Did you speak with another detective that evening, if you recall?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall if that was Detective Coates?
I don't remember his name.
So it'd be fair to say that you spoke with 2 different law enforcement officers that evening.
Yeah.
Do you recall in your interview with Detective Coates, in reference to the vehicle that you saw that evening, do you recall telling Detective Coates that it appeared there were 3 or 4 people in the Ford Escape as it passed you?
No, I don't remember that.
Do you recall in your interview with Detective Coates that evening stating that you could not provide any description of the occupants other than that they appeared to be African American?
Yeah, I remember saying that.
So it'd be fair to say that you observed African Americans in this vehicle that you saw, correct?
The reason why I came up with 3 or 4 people was because when I was walking by and I saw the car, there was 2 or 3 black males standing by the vehicle, and there was at least 3 or 4 more on the porch. So I figured they were by the vehicle. It must have been the ones trying to hide the vehicle because they were standing in front of it or real close to it.
In your opinion, did it look like they were nervous or attempting to hide?
Well, everybody was running past them and walking really fast, and they were just standing around there. They were the only ones not doing much. So yeah, they stood out.
Now, this is the question actually was in reference to when you spoke with Detective Coates that evening, in reference to seeing the vehicle in the parade as it passed you. Do you recall at that point, while at the parade that evening, do you recall stating to Detective Coates that it appeared that there were 3 or 4 people in the Ford Escape as it passed you during the parade that evening?
No, I don't remember that.
Any reason why the Detective Coates would report that that's what you stated to him?
Like I said before, I saw 2 or 3 people by the vehicle, so I assumed they were with the vehicle. So they must have been in the vehicle during the parade. I saw the driver going by because he hit somebody right in front of us.
Do you recall in your interview with Detective Coates that evening stating that the three individuals, and I'm referring to who you saw next to the vehicle, so it's clarification. The three individuals who were standing in a line, shoulder to shoulder, as African American males.
Yeah.
So it's fair to say that's what you observed that evening?
I saw at least two of them. And it looked like they were standing in front of it.
And during that interview with Detective Coates that evening, do you recall stating to Detective Coates that you may be able to recognize the older male? So I'm assuming one of the individuals that you saw standing shoulder to shoulder was a older male?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Any reason why multiple, well, I'm not going to say multiple, two. Any reason why the two detectives that you spoke with that night both reported that you stated you saw three black subjects running from the vehicle?
No.
And during the parade incident, were you or anyone you were with injured that evening?
No.
No further questions at this time.
Thank you. Any cross?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Lascano.
Good afternoon.
Sir, you said you watched the parade near Curry Insurance, is that correct?
Yeah, right in front.
Okay. Do you remember, you said you saw the SUV strike some people in the parade?
Yeah.
Yes? Do you remember what group of people in the parade? Can you remember anything about the name or the banner or the costumes or anything like that?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. It's crossed.
No,
Speculative. Objection.
Overruled. The witness may answer. I believe he said no. His answer may
Yeah,
stand.
no, I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember seeing the SUV strike more than one person?
Yeah.
Objection, speculative.
Overruled.
About how many people did you see the SUV strike, sir?
Objection, speculative.
Overruled.
It was crowds. I mean, when it was coming through, because I was standing over my daughter and my wife, they were sitting on the curb. I saw it coming through, and at first it looked like it was just pushing people out of the way, and then it just kept swerving back, and it was just plowing everybody out of the way until it got to in front of us. Then it actually hit somebody and just did like a cartwheel in the air.
You remember that?
Yeah, it was right in front of us.
Okay.
And while the witness was giving the answer, not the last answer, but the one prior to that, he had his right hand in the air, directioning his hand from right to left, describing the vehicle coming from right to left. And then when he said he saw someone go into the air, he was like twirling his fingers as if to say it kind of tumbled in the air. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. So, Mr. Lascano, I want to talk about the moment when you located this vehicle on Maple, okay? I'm going to ask, Madam Clerk, could you please turn on the AV system? We're going to put up State's Exhibit 65.
Go ahead.
Objection to the relevancy of Exhibit 65.
Noted, overruled. It's been received. The state may proceed.
All right. This total clip is 36 seconds, but before we begin to play it, sir, do you recognize the area on the screen that's shown in this picture?
Yeah, I believe that's Central Middle School.
Where?
Right at where the stairs is.
Okay, the red brick on the left side of the picture?
Yeah.
Objection,
Okay.
speculative.
Overruled. His answer may stand, he said, I believe.
And would you agree with me the house where the SUV was found was up in this area here where I just put the green dot on the screen?
Yeah.
Objection, leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
That looks right, correct, sir?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
All right, we're going to clear the screen, please, and we're going to play this entire clip for 36 seconds. Please watch and see if you see yourself or any of your family members in this clip.
Objection to the relevancy of this video to this particular witness.
Overruled. You may play the clip.
Overruled on what grounds, Your Honor? Is that attack an agreement?
Sir, did you see yourself or your family in that clip?
Objection speculative.
Overruled.
No, I did not.
Okay. Now, you said you did see, by the time you walked past the car, you saw 2 or 3 black males standing near the car, right?
Objection, mischaracterization of this. He said 3. Specifically said the number.
Overruled.
And you also said you saw 2 or 3 what you thought to be black males on the porch of the residence there, correct?
Objection. He stated it was black males. Asked and answered.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, there was 2 or 3 standing by the vehicle.
Okay.
And then on the porch, there was maybe 3 or 4 or more people. I don't know if they were, I'm sure they were white, but
okay.
I was trying to not make it obvious because at the time, I believed that they were with the vehicle, so I didn't want them to see that I saw them, so I just did what I thought was right at the time.
Sure. Do you happen to know the people that live at this house?
Objection speculative.
Overruled.
No, I do not.
Would it be reasonable, do you think, Mr. Lescano, that people living in the house heard the crash and came outside and that's who you saw standing there by the vehicle?
Objection. There was never any crash mentioned.
I'll sustain. It calls for speculation.
Mr. Lescano, is it possible that the people you saw standing near the vehicle were in fact just neighbors that saw the vehicle the same way you did?
Yeah.
You described that at the time you went by on Maple Street, there was a lot of people running around in the area. Is that correct?
Objection, mischaracterization of testimony.
Overruled.
Yes, there was.
And these are people hurrying away from the parade with their families, trying to get to safety just like you were, correct?
Objection speculative.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes.
You didn't see anything like that in State's Exhibit 65, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay. You said on direct examination that you saw the driver of the SUV in the parade. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
And you see that driver present in this courtroom here today, please?
Objection speculative.
Overruled.
Yes, he's sitting right over there.
Are you sure about that, sir?
Yes.
Objection speculative.
Overruled.
You said
and
that...
mischaracterizes the testimony because that was not testified to before on direct.
Oh, your objections are overruled. I believe the witness already answered. Go ahead.
Did you happen to notice in Exhibit 65 the red SUV in that video clip that you watched?
No.
You didn't see it at all, did you?
No.
Okay, just wondered. Mr. Lescano, have you and I ever spoken about this case, sir?
No.
What about Attorney Basie here to my right? You and her ever talk about this case or your testimony?
Objection hearsay.
Overruled.
No.
Mr. Witchow on the end, did you ever talk to him about
Objection.
your testimony, sir?
Objection hearsay.
Overruled.
No.
All right, thank you, sir. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Yep.
Go ahead.
You stated that you saw the driver, correct? Of the SUV that you saw that day, correct?
Yes.
How did the driver look that day you saw him?
He had a scruffy beard and he was a black male.
Did you see what the driver was wearing?
No, I don't remember that.
Did you see if the driver had any hair?
I don't remember that either.
Did you see if the driver had anything noticeable about their appearance? Tattoos, scars, marks, anything like that?
No. I saw the side, the profile, the side. You were flying fast down that street. I wasn't paying attention to the color of clothes you were wearing. I knew it was a black male and had a scruffy beard. It's the first thing I told my wife, is he was a black guy driving.
And do you recall how long you were able to get a side view, as you called it, of the alleged driver?
No, it had to be a couple seconds.
And in a couple seconds time, you were able to make out the driver's profile and race just by a couple seconds.
Yeah. It's not hard. You can tell if you were white or if you were black and if you had a beard. No, that's it. I don't know what color shirt you had on. If you had hair, a hat on backwards.
So that leads back to the question of, is that the only person you saw in the vehicle?
From what I remember, yes. I saw the driver. Like I said before, the reason why I thought there was 3 or 4 because I saw 3 or 4 people around the vehicle when I spotted it.
So would it be
That's
fair,
the only reason.
Would it be fair to say that when you spoke with 2 different detectives that evening, the evening of the parade, both of those officers reported that you stated there were 3 or 4 people in the SUV as it passed you? Is that fair to say?
Oh, wait, can you repeat that again?
Just for clarification, you already stated previously in testimony that you spoke with 2 different detectives that evening, correct?
Yes, I did.
And both detectives that you spoke with that evening, the evening of November 21st, 2021, you stated to both of those law enforcement officers, detectives, that you observed 3 or 4 people in the SUV.
Like I said before, the reason why I said there must have been 3 or 4 was because they were standing by a vehicle. So I assumed that they were with the vehicle. I don't remember seeing them in the vehicle when you were hitting the people.
You stated this to both detectives, 2 different detectives, the evening of November 21st, 2021. And this was in relation to what you saw from the vehicle at the parade, not where the vehicle was later found. Any reason why you stated to both detectives in relation to what you saw at the parade, why both detectives in their reports stated that you told them that you observed 3 or 4 people in the SUV at the time of the parade?
So what's your question?
The question is, why did you report that to 2 different detectives on the same evening?
Like I told you before, when I walked past the vehicle, I spotted more than one individual standing in front of the vehicle. So I assumed they were with the vehicle. That's why I said they were inside.
I'm sorry.
That's why I said they were in the vehicle. I said there had to be at least 3 of them in the vehicle. That's the only reason I said that.
So why would you report that you saw this during the parade?
I don't know.
And During both interviews with detectives that evening, the evening of November 21st, 2021, you also stated to both detectives that you observed 3 or 4 black or African American is the word used. 3 or 4 African Americans running from the vehicle. Any reason why both detectives reported that you said that?
No, I don't remember.
No further questions.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. Do we have additional witnesses here?
Yes, Your Honor, they're ready.
All right, would that be how many people?
There's 2 left.
Okay, so the 2 left on your list. Your next witness, sir.
So I'm guessing that's, oh, I know who it is. Just give me 1 quick second, Your Honor. 1 quick second.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that, Your Honor. I'm just making sure I have the correct paperwork.
My jurors need to stand. Go ahead.
This is what I was looking for. Some of this stuff is so much paperwork. Okay, I'm ready, Your Honor.
Go ahead. Call your next witness.
Kathleen Urel?
Darrell? That's how I think it is. We'll find out. First thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record and then spell each.
Kathleen, K-A-T-H-L-E-E-N. Last name Urell, Y-O-U-R-E-L-L.
Thank you so much. Your witness. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Miss Urel. Is it Urel?
Urell.
Urel. What do you do for a living?
I'm in workforce management for a call center.
November 21st, 2021. Directing your attention there. You recall that evening pretty well?
Off and on, sir.
That's fair. It has been a while. Do you recall what you were doing that evening?
Yes, sir.
And what were you doing that evening?
At what time?
Around 3:30, 4 o'clock-ish.
I was dropping off my children who were participating in the parade.
And did you yourself stay for the parade?
Partial parade, yes.
Partial meaning maybe a few minutes?
Until my group of children went by.
Okay. Do you recall where you were positioned during watching your group participate in the parade?
Yes, on north and east, right on the corner there.
North and east.
If you're going parade route, it would be on the right-hand side.
Okay. Just so we have clarification, can we pull up the exhibit, I believe it's 15?
We can.
Thank you.
Go ahead. And thank you.
Can we show it to the witness first?
He doesn't want it published, so just to the witness for now.
Just not yet. Just I want to make sure the witness gets a chance to view it first. Can you see that on your screen yet?
I do.
And using the touch screen, it's a touch screen. Can you point out where
It's
you?
now published. So do
Oh.
you want it published?
I'm sorry. Yeah, publish.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to point that
So
out.
just so I know, to use the touch, it has to be published.
No, she could use it, but if you're going to have her do it, it should be done in front of the jury.
Fair.
Okay, go ahead.
I think we got to wait on the jury, right?
Thank you.
For the jury, and can you, using the touch screen on your screen, can you point out exactly where you were positioned?
When I was watching it,
Yes, when you were watching it.
right on the corner. Sorry. Oh, well, if you want
Can
to
you
erase
clear-
it
can you
again,
clear
I'll
the-
do it again.
the arrow?
We'll clear it. You can do it again.
Yeah.
If you don't want, do you want the arrow?
Well, it was to the...
Clear it again.
Okay.
So it's a touch screen, so use your index finger and you can draw a circle.
Okay.
I was going to
Can you
say
clear
that.
Well, I mean, it was right
I,
there, but...
I was going to say a circle or a little dot if.
Well, I thought I would do the dot, but...
Yeah.
Oh.
Hold on.
Heavy
We'll do it
hands.
again. So press and hold while you draw.
Okay.
There you go.
And you said that would be approximately East Main and Northeast?
Correct.
And do you recall if those, well, there's side streets right there that you can see. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
And those side streets would be Northeast and Buckley, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall if there were barricades at those?
I can't honestly recall. I can't be sure.
We can take Exhibit 15 down.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And you said you stayed at the parade until your group had passed.
Correct.
And what time did you leave?
I can't determine the time. It was right after my group of kids went by.
And where'd you go from there?
I walked down, well, I went to go get the car because I had to go pick them up at the end of the parade.
And I'm assuming at some point your attention got drawn to something happening. That'd be fair to say?
Not necessarily.
What do you remember when you went to go get the vehicle to pick up members of your group? Would that be fair to say first? I don't want to assume.
Yeah.
Do you recall anything happening at that point?
A situation did occur before the said big event that took place.
What do you recall happening at that time once you were on your way to get your vehicle?
I think I need more specifics from you to give the details you may be looking for.
While you were getting your vehicle, did you observe anything happening? Did you overhear about anything happening at that point?
Nothing of that nature. Well, all I can say is that I was walking past White Rock.
Did you see anything that may have alerted your attention at that time?
Yes, a car coming through the parade at the beginning on White Rock where the parade was starting. So when I left, I walked down Main to White Rock on the corner there. Then a gentleman, a child who I don't know who they were, and myself walked across the street. And at this time, a car was beeping and weaving around a slight curve that White Rock has, and then continued continued on.
Did you see Did you see where the car went at that point?
Yes, I did. As it came around the slight curve White Rock has, it started to move forward, and then it went straight across when I was thinking it was going to leave the parade route. If you leave the parade route on Main, you're leaving. Sorry, if you turn left, you're leaving the parade route. If you're turning right, you're going right into the parade. And it went right to if you're looking at the parade, it was on the right-hand side. And it's continued on into the parade.
Hold on, just for the record, she was using her hands during her testimony. That's okay. I just need to make a record of it. Usually her right hand just kind of demonstrating the course of travel that she described, the vehicle. And I think that's probably all I need to put on the record. Sure. Go ahead. Next question.
I want to back up a little bit. When you first observed this car, as you say, you recall that it was blowing its horn.
Yep, the horn was beeping.
Do you recall if you saw who was operating that vehicle?
Unfortunately, sir, I can't recall.
Do you recall if you might have seen multiple people in the vehicle at that time? Or?
Unfortunately, due to the time passing, I cannot recall.
That's fair. It has been a while. Do you recall about what time that was that you observed the vehicle?
Again, I can't be sure.
Sorry if I keep asking.
No, I can't be sure. I'm sorry.
At the time that you observed the vehicle, did you see it strike anyone?
I did not, or at least I don't recall. I'm sorry.
And do you recall if the vehicle was speeding at that point that you observed it?
It wasn't speeding, but it was. All I can state is it wasn't speeding.
Did you happen to catch the license plate number of the vehicle at that time?
No, not at all.
Do you recall if the vehicle had any tinted windows?
I couldn't recall. I'm sorry.
Any windows rolled down or up at the time you observed it?
No, unfortunately, I don't remember.
Do you recall if the vehicle passed close to where you were walking at the time?
Yeah, it was close enough that it could have easily have clipped me or the two people that were in front of me.
Were the two people that you referred to in front of you, were any of you hurt at that time?
No.
No further questions right now.
Hey, Cross.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Darrell. Thank you for being here. You testified on direct examination that you don't recall whether or not you saw more than one person in that vehicle we're talking about. Remember saying that?
Yes.
You remember meeting on December 2nd, 2021 for an interview with Detective Jay Carpenter from the Waukesha Police Department?
I remember going. As to a lot of topic of conversations, I unfortunately can't recall those too clearly.
Do you remember telling Detective Carpenter that you only observed a driver in the vehicle?
Objection, leading witness.
Yeah,
Overruled, you may answer.
I can't be too sure.
Overruled, she may answer.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
I can't be too sure. Again, some of the conversations I might have had that day.
Do you remember what this vehicle looked like?
I do not.
Do you remember telling Detective Carpenter that it was a red truck?
I do not.
Okay. Can we please put up for everybody Exhibit 15 again?
Go ahead.
Can we zoom in on the intersection of East and Main?
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Your testimony is that you were here on the northeast corner of Buckley and Main Street. Is that right?
Objection already answered that, asked and answered.
Overruled. She may answer.
You said correct.
Correct.
And after your children walked by in the parade, you walked in this direction towards the intersection of White Rock and Main. Is that correct?
Objection
Correct.
leading and speculative.
So overruled as to both. You may answer. If there is another objection, just
I'll
wait
pause.
until I rule on it.
Sorry.
Thank you. No, that's okay.
Correct, that was.
And then you crossed through the crosswalk on the north side of Main Street. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that when you saw this vehicle we've been talking about?
Yes.
So you were standing in the crosswalk.
Correct.
Do you remember a police officer being in that intersection?
I can't be too sure.
Okay. Was it clear to you that this was a parade route?
Yes, it was. Very clear.
Was it clear to you that traffic from White Rock should not have driven onto Main Street
Yes.
unless they were part of the parade?
Yes.
Did it appear to you as though the vehicle we've been talking about was part of the parade?
No.
How many children do you have, Miss Urel?
Objection irrelevant.
Overruled. You may answer.
4 children.
All 4 of your kids were marching in the parade that day, weren't they?
Yes.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Sorry.
Your oldest daughter, Charlotte, she was 14 at the time?
Yes.
She was marching with the Extreme Dance Group as an alumni, wasn't she?
She was handing out candy.
Objection.
There was an objection. It's overruled.
I didn't even state why I was objecting, but okay. We still need a 15.
Yes, please. You see on that map the 5-point intersection?
Yes.
When you were standing in the crosswalk at White Rock in Maine, could you see the 5 points intersection?
I could not.
You didn't see your kids get hit, did you?
I did
Objection leading.
not. Sorry.
Overruled.
Again, sorry.
Objection hearsay.
Overruled.
You didn't.
I did not.
Did you see them later that night?
Objection leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
I was only able to see 2 of my children that night.
When did you see the other 2?
Days later, when I was able to leave Children's Hospital.
As their mother, you were directly involved in their medical care and the decisions that were made in that process in the days after the parade?
Objection leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, their father and I.
Charlotte suffered a chipped vertebrae from being struck, didn't she?
She did.
Objection
Sorry.
leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
She did.
Your daughter Alice, she was 10 at the time, wasn't she?
She was.
She suffered chipped front teeth, is that correct?
Yes.
And facial scarring
Yes.
and road rash
Yes.
and a broken fibula and tibia
Yes.
and broken metatarsal bones.
Yes.
She was observed in a concussion protocol, is that correct?
She was.
Your daughter Vivian, she was marching with the Extreme Dance Group too, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
How old was she in November of 21?
She just turned 7.
Vivian suffered a severe concussion, didn't she?
Objection leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
And road rash
Extreme road rash.
and a lung contusion
Yes.
and facial scarring.
Yes.
And your 7-year-old daughter Vivian suffered a broken tailbone, didn't she?
She did.
Your son Grayson, He was 8 on November 21st, 2021. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Overruled.
He was walking with the Extreme Dance Group handing out candy. Is that right?
He was.
He went to the hospital after the parade, didn't he?
Yes.
He suffered a compound fracture in his femur. Is that correct?
An open compound fracture.
Meaning the bone came through the skin?
Yes.
Objection, hearsay. I don't believe he's a doctor.
Overruled. The witness may answer based upon personal knowledge.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
A police officer saved Grayson's life by placing a tourniquet on that open leg wound. Is that correct?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions.
Will you read the record?
No redirect.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. You may call your next witness, please.
So we gonna take down these exhibitors. He gonna stay up
Oh,
on there.
thank you. We'll take it down. Please call your next witness.
Just 1 second. So you one more person here, right?
It's my understanding, sir. Would that be correct, Attorney Upper?
Yes, she's in the courtroom, ready to go, Your Honor.
Defense calls Catrice. I don't know how to say the last name.
Can you give me the spelling that you have?
Babiasz.
I think it's Babias. What's your last name?
Babias.
Babias. All right. Thank you. You are at the witness stand. Would you please raise your right hand? My clerk, Teresa, will swear you in. First thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record, and then spell each.
Catrice Babias, Katrice Babiazz.
Thank you. My apologies for mispronouncing that earlier. Go ahead, your witness.
Good afternoon, Miss Babias.
Correct.
I'm surprised I got it right. What do you do for a living?
I am a law enforcement dispatch supervisor.
And how long have you been doing that now?
I've been in law enforcement for 16 years.
The evening of November 21st, 2021, were you on duty that evening?
I was not.
What were you doing that evening?
I was attending the Waukesha Christmas Parade with my family.
And do you recall what time you arrived there with your family that evening?
I arrived to the parade shortly after it started, so it was right after 4 p.m.